the Rangers Journal now.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Rangers Journal podcast. We're here with another player breakdown tonight. My name is Scotty, and I'm your host for this evening. I'm delighted to be joined by one of our regular podders, Colin, and the man we've had on the channel before. I think the last time you were on, Michael, was to speak about Brian Prisker, who was at the time was linked to the vacant Rangers job. Obviously, Rangers didn't go down that route, but welcome back to the channel.
Yeah, good to be back on. I know that Rangers have had a links with a lot of Eredivisie players, Eredivisie past players, this kind of thing. So here's your latest one.
Oliver Antman this time, Oliver Antman. I'm hoping that we're actually going to be able to get a bit of success from this one from the Eredivisie. Can you tell me a wee bit about the player? What do you know about him?
Yeah, he was in the Eredivisie a little while ago when he was really young. It was with FC Groningen. But it didn't really work out for him. He went to Denmark and came back. Go Ahead Eagles paid quite a big sum for him last summer, around €1 million, which is a lot for a mid-table Eredivisie club. And he's gone up in value so much because of last season. Go Ahead Eagles won the Dutch Cup. It was the first prize in their entire history. They're in the Europa League this season. So it's a big thing if he stays, of course. He helps the club through that. It's a good experience for him. But he is good enough for a move. And I know Rangers, they have ups and downs of players they get from the Eredivisie. Most clubs do. But I wonder how this one will go. I think later in the video, I'll kind of give my overall verdict on it. But that's Oliver Antman. He's a Finnish international. And he had a fantastic season. Last season, he was nicknamed the Assist Koning in the Netherlands, Assist King, because of the amount of assists he got. It's incredible. It says it there, 16 assists.
Yeah. Well, on my agenda, I've got to ask you about kind of a standout season. Obviously, his standout season was last season. So what kind of impact did they have last season?
Sure. So he most played in the right wing in a 4-3-3. And the impact he had was he could take the ball, small spaces, find little gaps. You could play him throughout wide. They love the ball, through ball for the right wing where he could latch onto the ball and then get low crosses in. Those sort of trademarks of Oliver Antman. And he's just much more calm and deadly than I've ever known him to be. He's rising to the top of his game. A move like this would be good for him. I don't think his ceiling is, he said in an interview just lately that he would love to play in a top 5 league. And he would only make the move if it was the right one for him. So I think if he were to move to Rangers, honestly, he wants to see it as a stepping stone again to then try and get himself into a top 5 league. But I don't think he's going to suddenly play for one of the absolute top clubs in those top 5 leagues.
When you come, Colin.
Yeah, I'll come in there. Michael, nice to meet you. I obviously that graphic kind of gives us an idea of what kind of player Antman is, but I want to pick your brains on, is he a direct runner? Is he just a creator, or is he a goal threat?
Ooh.
Or a combination of?
Yeah, a combination of, but I wouldn't put him down as someone who. What were your 3 areas again? Give me again.
So direct runner, because I've seen a few clips, and it's difficult to take too much from the YouTube compilations.
Of course, yeah. Of course, gotta be careful.
He seems like he's a bit of a direct runner, but obviously that graphic tells you he's got final product in terms of his pass.
Well, that's it.
But what about his goal threat? Can he do more?
Right, so his end product is excellent, as you can see with his assists there. He scored some important goals last season, but, didn't get to double figures for that. So is that something area he can improve on still? Yes, of course it is. But he did score a couple of really important goals against PSV in a win against them last season. He has got that kind of quality. He can rise to that occasion. I do think he's a player of high quality. But if you're thinking of playing for Rangers, that's the thing. You've got to... It's that goal threat, isn't it? It's got to be every single game. And the assists look like that. That's something you could latch onto, but it's the goals part, I suppose, it could be better. But no, he's a very good dribbler, but he's not someone who you would say is really well known for beating 5 or 6 players and then, burying it or anything like that. But he is very good down that right side. He had a good link up with the right wing back there, Matt Style. And together they were really quite neat and tidy footballers together. That's kind of something I always think about Antman. It's always on the floor. He likes to find the right room, pick the right pass. He's sort of like Ivan Needle kind of guy.
I guess you know, it's interesting because we've always taken a couple of wings on the left hand side, and Antman's, from what I gather, predominantly a right winger. I wondered whether does he like hugging the touchline? Does he like cutting inside more? Or does he prefer playing centrally? Because obviously we're not going to have overlapping fullbacks from what we've seen so far with Russell Martin. So does he like cutting inside, or does he like hugging the touchline?
Hugging the touchline, much more so. Creating the space on the right hand side, using players around him into play to build those areas where he can then deliver the final ball, or laying somebody else to do the same.
What do you think he's see in terms of the Scottish League? Do you think he could handle the physicality of it? Is he able to take a challenge, basically? Because we've had wingers currently at the club now. One is just departed tonight. We've got one that we've just bought. Splits the fan base in terms of Oscar Cortez. Due to the physicality of the league, the plastic pitches, is that something that would be an issue for Antman?
That's a really good question. A classic one asked of anyone, who's watched Eredivisie. Can he handle physicality? Sometimes the answer is yes, they can. Sometimes it's not so sure. I think this one's a not so sure. I don't know. I think until I see it, until it's in front of our eyes, we can't tell for sure. But I don't think he's. No, he's not. He's not that big and strong physicality that if someone's going to come flying on him, I don't know if that's his kind of game. Don't think that's his kind of way of his style. Like in the Netherlands, it is very much on the floor. If people don't know, it is neat and tidy football, and he suits that definitely at the moment. Which is why I think him staying at Go Ahead Eagles would really have made sense this season, because the Europa League will be a good development for him. I think he's quite keen to move on, crack on and move on again and go somewhere else. And because the Netherlands can be like kind of league where you're moving from ship to ship. But he has only had one season and the Netherlands having a really good year. So in terms of it being, it says on here, like one of the cons, poor aerial duels won. Like, no, that's not really what he's going to be doing. So the physicality there, yeah, maybe not.
What about his tactical intelligence? Do you think there's a lot of development in him yet? How is he tactically within the game?
Yeah, that bit you can say is much stronger. That he can adapt to what his side needs to do. Go Ahead Eagles were sometimes on the front foot and were trying to break teams down, despite the fact you might deem them as a mid-table club. They were actually doing quite well last season. They were gate crashing the top 6, top 5 for a long time. So there are a lot of games where teams were sitting against them. They had to break them down. He could handle that and was able to, like I say, find those little rooms, little spaces. Because I couldn't really play the counter-attack too much, Go Ahead. But then when they were against the PSVs in the finals, they were able to give them a really good game, and they were then sat in at moments, and Antman was quite dangerous to have when there was more space playing the counter-attack. So I think Rangers playing those games where they've got to win 3 and 4-0s, and you've also got the other ones where he has to maybe play in the European games, and there's more space in the counter-attack. I see the host gone, but it's all right.
Yes,
we'll keep talking.
We'll carry on, Michael. We'll carry on. I'm enjoying listening to you, and it's exciting for us. Obviously, we don't know how far on the deal is. We had heard earlier this week that the terms have been agreed between the club and the player, but maybe not between club and club. But just following on from what Scotty had asked you about his tactical intelligence, wanted to ask you about how you see him adapting to our style of play. So I don't know how much you've seen of us so far, but our fullbacks are very much inverting to try and leave our wingers one-on-one with the fullbacks and give them space to go one-on-one. Do you see him adapting to that style of play pretty quickly?
That would certainly suit him a lot better. If you expect him to come inside a lot more, then you're not going to get the best out of him. But yeah, because you're hinting there that he probably would need to stay quite wide.
Yeah, so I think from what we've gathered from Russell Martin's style of play so far, his 2 wide men are supposed to hug the touchline and stretch the play as far as possible. And everything between the defence and midfield is to try and get these wingers opportunities to go and attack our fullbacks one-on-one. So, I mean, certainly the clips
Perfect.
I've seen, he looks pretty good at that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would suit him massively. But I think just for me as an someone who's an Eredivisie fan, Vakov Cherny, like how was his impact last season? How does Antman's style coming in compared to what Cherny was giving you? Because wasn't he playing on the right side for you?
Cherny was playing the right hand side, yeah, and you've touched on a really kind of interesting one for me in terms of obviously Antman's predominantly right-footed, from what I see, and Cherny was obviously left-footed, which meant he was coming in the pitch, inside the pitch quite often.
And he was like quite direct, wasn't he? Like he looks.
was,
If I watch him play like for 20, if anyone's wondering why I'm talking about Vakov Cherny, but
yeah,
you know, cutting inside, lots of crosses, shots, big movements, big actions. Antman's kind of more gentle, if that makes sense.
Right. Good to know. I guess following on from that, then you'll have seen we've just come through a two-legged tie against Panathinaikos, where we don't want to mention the war, but Kieran Dowell starred right wing, and it seems that Russell Martin quite likes maybe the defensive side of the game that Dowell brings, the solidity, especially away from home or in Europe. Is that part of Antman's game quite strong? Does he track back? Does he contribute defensively?
Yeah, he does. Like I said, when there were games where Go Ahead had to play against those bigger sides, that's something he would do, work super hard. They won the Dutch Cup as well with him helping them on the way to that. They beat PSV on the way, RZ in the final. There were moments where they had to really dig in, Go Aheads, and that's what they became quite well known for, as well as having to break sides down. That's quite a good thing for them to have last season, and Antman was a massive part of that. They will really, really miss him if he goes. That his impact was so big there. He was just always a threat from the right side. He was scoring goals, but it was just mostly setting things up and creating stuff all the time, creating problems.
Yep. What would you? Sorry about that. I get cut off there. What would you say his biggest strengths are in terms of how he creates? Is he a tricky type winger? How does he create space? Is he found in space, or does he create it for himself?
Yeah. Okay. So Go Ahead would work well with lots of interplay, and it was all quite neat. Like I said, neat and tidy. It would be very kind of jinky football. You'd have wingers kind of doing some step overs, having some shots and crosses. So I think that's where it suited him really well. In terms of how that chance creation comes around, it is using him, giving the ball to him, seeing what he can create. Can he create room for somebody else? Can he come and have a shot himself? Does he make a run and receive the ball for a cross? That's the kind of thing I would see him do. The one thing I wanted to mention earlier within this was I was then looking forward to seeing him doing all this for Finland when they play the Netherlands. We watched the Dutch national team as well as the Dutch league. And I was really disappointed in him. I think that's one of the biggest things that makes me think he's not quite ready yet, because when Finland really needed him, a side that, yes, aren't quite as good as the Netherlands, I just thought he'd really raise his game and have a big impact. He couldn't really. But I think that's because he was quite restricted and he had to play quite deep in that game, rather than someone where they could have a lot of the ball and create problems. But yeah, in terms of how he creates problems, then it's using the players around him. He's not like, you can't rely on him to do it on his own.
How do you think he would adapt to coming into Rangers? Do you think he would be a starter as soon as he come in? Do you think he's got that quality to come in and take a jersey straight away?
It's always tricky to say now, like in terms of some of the Eredivisie players that have come in before, that I did say that Dest will come in and be one of those players. And to be fair to me, I started a lot of games. Now you look on the outside, score a lot of goals, and there's been frustration from missing lots of other chances from what I hear. Yeah. When Robin Proper came in, I wasn't deadly set on how we get on, but I did think he'd handle the physicality better than he perhaps did. So I guess that one was a miss for Rangers. It's gone back to Twente. I'm sure he'll be good at Twente again. So then you got Antman coming, and you're thinking, is this one of those where maybe he's not a starter, maybe he's an impact player? If he is a starter, does he get a run in the side, and then you're disappointed if he's not doing enough? I'm actually feeling a little for him here. I stay away about physicality. Yeah, he's probably tall enough, but one of the stats there was that how he's not great in his aerial duels. He will find the league a bit of a shock going from the Dutch league to the Scottish league with the physicality. I can guarantee that. He was linked with Sheffield United as well. I saw like the Championship as well. I don't think really is for him. Like it's a funny thing, isn't it? You think if a player's good enough, they'll shine no matter what. But I do think that the style of teams and league, like it does make a difference for a player. You can't just whack a player anywhere and expect them to strike gold unless they're that good. So I just hope with whatever plans Rangers do have for Antman, should those rumours be true, that they're going to build a bit around him and try and get the best out of him, and not to rely upon him to try and set up loads of goals from nothing. It's a really good question. It's one I'm really caught on the fence on, actually.
Yeah. Michael, I guess, if he was a full package, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. He'd be, like you say, he'd be heading to the top 6 in England or Spain or France or Italy or somewhere. So obviously, he has got things he can improve on. But just off the pitch, what you mentioned there about Dessers. I mean, Dessers is one of these guys that splits our support down the middle. He scored a lot of goals, but I think everybody's in agreement. He's got a good personality. He's quite chirpy and resolute. What kind of personality does Antman have, on off the pitch? Is he quite resolute?
Well, as opposed to Cyril Dessers, when he was in the Netherlands, he was very outspoken, loved getting the fans on his side, and I could tell you lots about him. I can tell you much less about Antman. Like he was barely ever in any interviews that I saw after games, when taking in coverage. Barely ever spoke to the media, but that's it. I think he's quite quiet, and he's a very different personality to what you would expect with like a Cherney or a Dessers.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I love this question. We've asked this a couple of times on some of these breakdowns on players. Are there any players, past or present? You might have to take some time to think about this one, but are there any players, past or present, that you compare him to? I love that question because we've had a few players come in already this window that you can kind of see traits of past players, and it helps you kind of identify where they might shape up or fit within our squad. Is there anyone that springs to mind, or we can maybe come back to that one if you can't think of someone?
Well, yeah, because I get a lot of these when I go on like British football podcasts when the players are coming from the Eredivisie, and I really struggle at it. So I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to have to drop that one. I would really struggle. I'm sure there are people that it's a lot like people would know, but I just cannot think of one.
You can feel free to say Ronald de Boer if you want. We'll take that. See in terms of market value, what do you think Go Ahead Eagles will be looking for a price? Is it 5 million that's been rumoured? Do you think that's a fair price, or?
Yeah, that's right.
See somebody with that creative output, 5 million seems a wee bit cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've got someone like David Muller-Wolf, who's going from AZ Alkmaar to Wolves, 12 million euros. You're thinking, but he had one bad season at AZ and then one half decent one. He's only played a few games in the Europa League. How does that make him worth 12 million euros? And you've got Antman, who his output is fantastic and he's worth 5 or 6 million because he plays for Go Ahead Eagles. That for me doesn't sit right, and I don't think that's a fair valuation on him. I would be inclined to think he's worth double that, but he's not going to receive that. He's even said himself in a frank interview, like, I've quadrupled my price from what I was worth, and he was like €1 million before. So yeah, he'll bring in a big profit for Go Ahead, but he should be bringing in more with today's market, the ridiculous fees we see. Yeah, that's not quite fair. But I suppose it's also a good bargain for Rangers, and they're again trying to shop in that market of players that could potentially hit, but knowing it could easily miss as well. But it's not a massive outlay for them to miss out on, I guess, if it does flop.
Yeah, definitely. See, in terms of the market, we'll stay on that for a wee minute. In terms of the market and is Go Ahead Eagles' kind of financial situation of a state that they would need to accept the £5 or £6 million, or are they in a position where they could demand a higher fee than that?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think they have the ability to like stick their heels in and say no, because I think Dutch clubs will always sell at the right price. It's a little bit frustrating when you're looking at it like as an English fan of the Eredivisie, you're like, they could just easily have got more money for that. But no, they will go, yeah, that's the right price. You can go. I suppose they don't have to sell. They don't need the money, but they have been selling a couple of players already from the squad from last season that did really well. A few more might go. Another one that is in that kind of Rangers region, Jakob Brum is a attacking midfielder. He's really good, Danish midfielder. I actually like him a little more in terms of maybe have a higher ceiling than Antman. But yeah, it remains seen if he stays or goes. A few of these players could stay or go. They're in the early 20s. They could go, could move, or they could stay for another year. We go ahead and play in the Europa League. So it's tricky for them because Antman's, again, part of his interview, he did even say it'd be logical for him to go now, but if he stayed, the right club didn't come along, he's really happy. He's happy there another year, or at least till January. And that's quite a Dutch mentality to have, even though he's from Finland. That's a kind of what you'd expect him in the Dutch Eredivisie. There's players going to go, yeah, I could move. I'm not going to hide it. I will admit that I want to move, and it might only be here for 1, 2, or 3 years, and I'm going to go. I'm using this as a stepping stone. Whereas I don't know how Rangers fans would see that if a player said that joining Rangers. Well, I'm here for like a couple of years to develop myself, and then I'm off again. I don't know how that would sit.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is he's not going to do an Alexander Isak and disappear and not train with Newcastle.
Oh, I wouldn't expect
want
that.
to move to Liverpool.
Good boy.
What was I going to say? That yeah, so often it's good to hear what the fans think about his departure. There's been much noise around his departure. I mean, I know, is it Lasana who left to go to Anderlecht out of this window? So I think
Jansana. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has there been much noise around the home support Go Ahead Eagles? Are they quite, worried about losing him, or what's the general feeling? Do you know?
Yeah, it's part of what it's like in the Netherlands. So for them, they've just won the first trophy in the history. For them, It don't get any better. They're living on cloud 9. They're going in the Europa League. They might lose every single game. I don't think they will. But for them, that is great. Like there's no big panic losing Antman at all. As big a miss as it would be, they're expecting to lose players. This is natural and it is okay. Fans expect it. So I think for them, getting a player to be sold for more than €5 million, that's quite a rarity. Because you might see him getting a lower fees than that and go into RZ or Twente or something. So yeah, it's an interesting insight, I think, because I think Rangers fans might not hear about that much. Maybe across their own league, I don't know. But Dutch football fans are proud to see a player go. This will be, I think, one of those. Antman will leave, and they'll be really pleased that he played for the club, and really pleased for him that he's come to the club, had a nice impact, and he's gone, leaving a nice transfer fee for the club.
Yeah. You mentioned Cherney earlier on, and obviously, he was a great player for us, but he was considered to be out with the price bracket that we're looking at, and obviously the age profile. Obviously, Antman's pretty young. If there was one thing, what do you think the Rangers fans, if he signs, would love most about Oliver Antman?
I think it will be his ability to set up goals. If he continues on this trajectory of getting assist after assist, because I was watching every game and thinking, oh, it's another one. It's just, and he's picked out another brilliant pass, and you're thinking this will just be a flash in the pan. He'll get to a certain number and it'll start, and that'll be it. It just carried on and on and on. It was a run of one per game at one point. So this isn't going to stop. So I think should he get into that rhythm, then that's what they'll love. I think, he set up another goal for the team.
So how would what's your kind of overall opinion on Antman then? How would you best describe him? I'm trying to think, what type of player is he?
How do I sum this up in a sentence or a few words? Obviously not trying not to repeat what I've said already. He is a winger that uses players well in the interplay. He loves getting to the byline and producing crosses. The things that you see him do these things, but they're just not trademark of his play. He's not someone that's, sweeping high crosses in for big, tall strikers. He is someone that loves creating space for himself, for others, to then produce a nice crisp pass, a nice crisp ball, to try and get the other players involved. And that is how Go Ahead Eagles got the best out of him, by using that game after game after game. He can do other things. He can play in the counter attack. He can finish. He's just quite a calm, steady personality to have around. And I think it could work, but I also don't want to like step in neck and say, yes, it's a fantastic signing. It'd be gold. But I think with the year he had last year, the trajectory he was on, it's suggesting that he has development still to go and he can be a very good player for Rangers. It's that market again that Rangers are trying to pick out. Is he good enough to play at that level? Yes. Will he struggle with physicality? Probably. Could he be useful in Europe? I'm not sure at the moment because he hasn't proven that at Go Ahead Eagles, but he's shown in the big games in the Netherlands he can do it. But I think in terms of playing against other sides in the league where they have more of the ball, I think he's someone that you can use quite reliably when the spaces aren't quite there. You've got teams in low blocks. He'll try and find a way through that.
Fair enough. I've got any further questions, Colin. You get any, mate?
No, he's touching it there. I was gonna mention obviously that we face low blocks obviously most weeks in the Scottish Premiership. And obviously in Europe, whether it's a Champions League or the Europa League, we'll have a bit more space. We'll maybe be playing on the counter or have more space to run into more. I take it, he would suit that kind of European style more than against low blocks, or do you think he'd be able to do both?
I think he'd be able to do both. Like I say, he did that with Go Ahead, but it's the physicality part of it. Like how would teams defend differently against him than they are already at the moment, where you've got more fullbacks in Netherlands will be pacey players that probably were wingers and they've fallen back into a wing back or a fullback position. So what are fullbacks like in Scotland? Are they going to be largely different? Sometimes they'll be the same, I'm sure, but you're more likely to find stronger defenders in those positions and people trying to gang up on him as well.
And the final question I had, I didn't see this in the compilations, but is he on set pieces ever? Does he take corners, free kicks? Obviously with that assist number, without being on set pieces, that's actually quite remarkable.
They were showing it around Go Ahead Eagles. I think he was taking some of... Oh, do you know what? I don't know if he was on free kicks from what I can remember. Obviously watching a lot of teams in the Eredivisie, not just Go Ahead Eagles. I remember taking some corners though, with some of the crosses he was doing. But yeah, I wouldn't stick my neck out and say, he'd take every single set piece. But he's capable of it. His final ball delivery is fantastic.
Hey, well, that's brilliant, Michael. Thank you for coming on.
No, you're very welcome. I think that's difficult being an Eredivisie fan. I have not watched Go Ahead Eagles week in, week out, but I do remember watching them quite a lot last season. But I was drawn to him a lot, just thinking he's getting another assist or thinking he's obviously going to get a move somewhere else, but secretly hoping that Go Ahead will keep hold of him. Maybe they still will. I don't know. It's kind of up to him now, isn't it? It's getting there's no smoke without fire, and there's been a lot of rumours with Rangers, and I feel like it is happening. It may well go over the line, and it'll be a good sign for Rangers. But is he going to be like those other players who signed the Eredivisie history? Mighty flop. I think I'm not going to say either way. I'm going to say it's a 50-50 one. It really could go either way with him. But fingers crossed it's a good one. I always hope it's a good one. And maybe he sets up Dessers a little better to score some more goals this year. Maybe it's on a plate for him. Maybe he gets some more out of it. But yeah, we're a football down anyway. If anyone wants to check us out, just give a little shout out to us. English language Dutch football podcast. We're about to do a season preview podcast this weekend, so people can check us out. We've got a website. We're big on Twitter, X, and YouTube as well. Check out. We do meet players and we do podcasts in the league and the national team.
Nice, brilliant, Michael. Thank you for your time. Thanks for coming on again. Likewise, if you ever need anything, just give us a shout. We've been more than happy to help you. I
feel like I'm on Rangers podcast the most out of any other club.
That's probably quite an accurate statement, to be honest with you. We'll blame Giovanni Van Bronckhorst.
Yeah, I think it probably started around then, to be honest.
He started it,
I wasn't struck on him, to be honest. I think that was one that I did get right. Van Bronckhorst, I don't know. He did win some stuff, but I don't know.
He done a better job than a couple of his predecessors anyway, put it that way. Done a better job than the other two. Certainly no, thank you for joining me.
No, I like the Rangers fans when they comment on the stuff that I've been on and like the amount of shows that you've got. You've obviously got a great community and lots of content people get their teeth stuck into. So, big up Rangers.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Keep an eye on the season. Cheers.
Thanks for coming on, mate. So, Colin, what's your final thoughts on Oliver Antman then?
Yeah, it's interesting when he mentioned the other boy, Brown, has been linked with the other side of the city, and that he thinks he's probably more a consistent player and has a higher ceiling. It's like any of these deals. Most of the deals we've done this summer, we're getting linked and then they're done. This one's, obviously it's been 4 or 5 days now since it was reported that we've agreed terms. Could very well be that we're just trying to agree the fee with the club. But I do wonder if the Raksaki option is still in the background and they're maybe just deciding between the two. I don't know about you, Scotty. Do you see us taking another 2 wingers in, or do you see one? Because that may be the conundrum.
I really don't know, because I've seen his link to Joe Gilhart tonight of Leeds United, and he can play across the front three. So it's really, really difficult to say, to be honest with you. I would quite like Antman to come in, because it's not often you can say you see a winger coming in with such high assist numbers like that. Like, he comes across like a bit of a creative monster.
Yeah, for sure.
I
mean, how many times
that we need, to be honest?
Yeah. How many times have we been linked with players and secure players who have been out of form or just not done it where they've been at their previous club, and we're trying to kind of get them back in form? If we signed him, there's absolutely no doubt about it. He's shown, the stats prove it. I suppose the only other concern, I agree, I hope he comes in. I think the only other concern was the physicality. We saw at the other end of the pitch, granted it is the other end of the pitch, but Robin Proper wasn't physical enough for our league. Antman's obviously a winger, so it's totally different. But he certainly looks like he's got the tools and sounds like he's got the tools to be effective for us. And like we were saying before, if you have a threat of both wings, something we haven't always had, then it's a game changer for us.
We just need to wait and see how it all unfolds. But we've covered the player anyway, so if anybody's wanting to find out more about him, then they can come on over to Rangers Journal and watch our breakdown on him. A big thank you to Michael for joining us, and Colin, thank you for giving up your time on a Friday night to join me on that.
No, thank you very much. And like you say, Michael's really knowledgeable, so it was great getting the chat and finding out a bit more about the player.
Aye, definitely. If you've not done it already, please like and subscribe to the channel. We will be back tomorrow with your pre and post match thoughts and reactions to the Motherwell game. And we will see you then. Remember, every night's your Rangers Journal night. Good night.